impact that you make, on your community. And we can talk a little bit more about community. I think that's the next one. Oh, no, we're going to go more into character. These are things that colleges look for. They want to know how you're committed to others, service to others. Are you community minded? What kinds of activities or experiences have you had that show your perseverance or your dedication, compassion, curiosity? I think the 5, they're not listed here exactly, but really the 5 things that colleges want to see is intellectual curiosity. They want to see consistent engagement, again, that long-term sort of deeper engagement rather than a bunch of little things. Or 2-hour trash pickup is not, that's not really service one time a year, but organizing 5 of them in 1 year, that's a commitment, right? So there's a difference in that. And when you have to talk about what it is you're engaged in, it can, if it's shallow, you won't have much to write about. If it's deep, you'll have a better experience. And like I said, leadership or initiative is really what they're looking for. What do you contribute? How are you contributing to your community, and then to our campus, and then to the world at large? So these are, yeah. So this is something that you can help your student do. Talk to them about what's available at your school or your community. And then again, community is broad. That can mean anything. That could mean your club at school. It could mean your faith community. It could mean your job. It could mean your household. If you're part of your household and you take care of things in your home or for your family, that can be your community as well. Yeah, don't overdo it. It's more effective to do just a few activities and get deeply involved than do a ton at a surface level. So I know that's repetitive, but that's how it is. And then to think about each thing that you do, how does it reflect your values, your strengths, and your interests? How does each of those things that you do help you grow as a person? And what impact are you having? And you will need to be able to articulate that in your essays. So these are really important questions to ask yourselves to kind of trigger that thought process. And then I think I mentioned earlier, if you want to stand out, look for things that other students at your school aren't doing or won't do, and then take initiative and do something about that. Make an impact. Okay. And then the things we cannot control. So you can see the big iceberg, right? The institutional priorities, and this is on purpose, because what institutional priorities are the things that we don't know about and we cannot control. And they definitely influence college admissions. So just as a couple of examples of that, I just made a few examples of what institutional priorities might look like. They're going to be, first of all, they're arbitrary. And again, we have no control. So there are characteristics or achievements that advantage a student. Yeah, this is just a quote by Achille Bello. They are possibly meeting an institutional or a college need. So maybe it's an under-enrolled academic major. Maybe it is diversity. Maybe it's an athletic talent or legacy status or a geographic representation, right? There's VIP categories or the children of faculty. These are all things that can impact the admissions class for a particular school, and they're things we will never know about because they also change from year to year. So Achille Bello I like him a lot, and he says college admissions, not a forced ranking process. It is a numerically informed human decision-making process influenced by a student's academic achievements, personal profile, and importantly, this is really important, by the college's strategic plan and institutional priorities. So understanding how admission works means recognizing that institutional needs impact the recruitment, acceptance, and aid incentives. And that is super important to keep in mind, especially at the end of the process when things tend not to make sense. And there's things happen, and this kid did this, and that kid had a lower GPA, and why did this kid get here, and that kid get it? Those are things that cannot be explained because of this. And so that's something, as parents and adults in the lives of children who are applying, it's really important for us to keep that front and center, because it's not about a child not being good enough. And that's really, really, really important to keep in mind as kids go through this process, because they feel bad if they don't do what they think they're supposed to do. Okay, that's my little soapbox on that. So yeah, what does fit mean? It means that you're really looking at the institution for your major, right? And maybe possibility of a different major, if you, just in case you change your mind, which 80% of freshmen do. Make sure that you have some clubs or sports or organizations, make sure your people are there, right? Something that you would find yourself or see yourself doing on that campus. Size is really important, right? You want a smaller, you want a college that's smaller than your high school, larger than your high school. How do you feel in your high school environment? Where do you think you want to be? Do you want big sports? Do you want sports, but not all the time? These are things to consider, not just the name, but the actual factor. And then, college environment. Do you have to travel? What's the weather like? Is it in a big city? Are you going to be out in the middle of nowhere, right? All of these things matter in the long run, because you're going to have to live there for 4 years. So you probably want to like at least, 70% of the things that a college offers you. It won't be 100%, but there should be a good percentage of things that you like. So there's that. And then, this is really important. It's important that the student has visited or researched online, that the student, not the parent, has spoken to students and talked with them about their experience. They can go online and do it, but really talking to students who are there is really beneficial, and not just in the admissions office, if you can do it. Kids that are actually not paid in the admissions office. It's important that the student, and this is really important, you can name 5 things you love about the school that don't include anything you can find on the website. Because if you have to write an essay about that, they don't want to hear what's already on the website. They want to know what you think. And so it's really important for you to know what it is that you think about that school. And then you do want to target schools where your scores are above or in the middle 50% of admitted students. And that you've read the mission statement and that you see yourself in that mission statement. So how do you connect with that school and their mission statement? Okay. And then this, I think this is really important. This is newer research, the last decade, I suppose, but the things that the experiences your students should have in college, and this is what employers are looking for, not necessarily the name, but they want to know what they've done while they're there on campus. So connecting with a professor who makes you excited about learning, working on a long-term project, which could be a thesis. So see if your school requires a senior thesis or a senior project. You want to make sure that you have professors who are mentors, somebody who's going to write a letter of recommendation for you, someone who's going to encourage you in the path that you want to take. And then if you can get a job or an internship, that's so beneficial to kids who are looking for a job at the end. Like, what kind of work experience have you had? Have you been in the world of work? What do you know about that? Employers are interested in that. And then again, like in high school, you're going to want to make sure that you're involved in something that's aligned with your interests and your values, because that, interestingly, that can often lead to what you do next after college, in addition to your major, but maybe it was something that you did while you were in college in terms of your involvement. Okay. Okay, so this is the big question. So how do you build your list? And how many colleges should you apply to? Well, there's another slide that kind of breaks it down by numbers, but my recommendation is no more than 10 to 12. And there are a couple reasons for that. Applying to more colleges doesn't increase your odds of acceptance. It just doesn't. It doesn't work that way. So picking the schools that you know you're a good fit for is the best way to build your college list. How many reach colleges should you have? You can have a couple, but if they're all reach schools, again, you're just going to be disappointed at the end. It happens every year for me, but and then when's the right time to visit college? I think now, spring of junior year or early summer. That way you can kind of get an idea, and you can visit schools right around here that are close by. You don't have to make a big trip. Try to pick different types of schools. So for instance, in our area, we have UCs, we have Cal States, we have Occidental, we have, I mean, there's so many, Cal Lutheran, there's lots of schools, different types of schools right in our area that you could just go and visit in terms of a type of school. Doesn't have to be that exact school that you're interested in or not, but just getting an idea of what a college campus looks like is a really good start. So that, and then when should you start narrowing down? Kind of goes back to the first one, how many colleges to apply to. The reason that I say only 10 to 12 is because when you're a senior and you have your senior workload and you're applying to colleges, you want to make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself with the work that needs to be done on a college application. So it's important to start that in the early summer, your research, and then getting your list ready, and then working on your essays, and then being able to submit in that early fall season so that you can enjoy the rest of your senior year. Demonstrated interest is something that some colleges care about and some colleges don't. And the way you do that is you visit, you reach out to admissions officers, you interview if you can, you answer the emails. If you've signed up for their email list, you want to make sure you're answering those emails, not just ignoring them or throwing them into your junk box. And just staying in touch with the college. If you are interested in a college, and a lot of them, and they will tell you whether they count that or not on, shoot, we don't have a reference to this, but I'll think of it and I'll tell you. There's a place you can find that out. And I don't have it on the top of my head right now. So let's just go to the next one. Oh, here you go. So here's what you do to show your interest. Visit, research, be open to considering colleges with acceptance rate greater than 50%. Research the honors colleges within larger public universities if you're looking for smaller class size and rigor. So for instance, University of Oregon is a super popular honors college because it's a much smaller college within a huge university that still has all the sports and rah-rah that kids think they like, but it's a smaller setting, and they have a lot more benefits in that smaller setting. And then demonstrate your interest, right? So sign up for emails, talk to the admissions officer, and if you reach out to a counselor with a question, make sure that, you know, it's not just something that you can't find out on the website. That's always what I tell my students. Make sure you can't find it on the website. Make sure it's a real question that you need to know, because they do track that if they're interested in demonstrated interest. Okay. So what should you be doing now? I can't stress this enough, but grades, grades, grades. The grades are the major reason. That's what colleges are looking at, because that's what you're going to have to do when you get there. It's not going to be all about the activities. It's going to be about your coursework and how well you do, and whether that's a place where you're thriving. Like I said, take the most rigorous courses you can take that don't send you over the edge. Challenge yourself. Make sure you're challenging yourself. And then activities. Go for your deep involvement and impact, and be able to think about that and connect that to who you are and why you like it. Get to know your teachers, because they're the ones that are going to be writing you the letters of recommendation. In fact, I encourage my students in the spring right now to approach their junior year teacher that they would like to have write a letter of recommendation for them. Give them a heads up, ask them if they'd be willing to do that for them in the fall. Just kind of get that ready to go. And then start creating your balanced and well-researched college list. Now's the time to start researching. Right. Prestige, we talked about it in the beginning. Just because a college is prestigious, or you've never heard of, I mean, just because you've never heard of a college doesn't mean it's not good. Prestige does not equal good, is what I want to say about that. It's really important to cast a wide net to make sure that you have a balanced list, and you will have really good results when next April rolls around. Okay, so test can be a stressful situation and stressful subject for lots of students. Some of the more selective and Ivies are going back to test required. But if you don't have those schools on your list, please check out your school and see if they're test optional. Test optional, if you don't want to take a test, choose a school that's test optional where you do not have to submit a test. And I just want to stress right here that the University of California system and the California State University system, the UCs and the Cal States, do not require tests. They will not consider an entrance test score. Okay, so that's different than APs. I'm talking about an SAT or an ACT. APs are different. And that's something else we can talk about, but I don't want to confuse people. They don't consider an SAT or an ACT for college admission. I'll leave it at that. All right, so here's the schools and the number that we kind of talked about earlier. I think Reach schools should be no more than 2 to 3. And any college that admits 25% of their applicant pool is a Reach for everyone. That's for everyone. Even if you're valedictorian, even if you are, you've started your own business, even if you've done research, it's for everyone, because we went over the numbers in the beginning. It's just a smaller group of freshmen that they're going to admit. So you don't want to have any more than 2 to 3 Reach schools on your list. You definitely want Target, and I say 3 to 4. That can be where you up that middle number if you want to 12, and then definitely safe or likely schools where you're 100% sure you will get in, right? And that's a really important, I'm just going to stress right now, it's really important to pick at least one of those schools and to apply early so that your student gets into a school early, and then that takes the rest of the pressure off. It's amazing psychologically what that does for a student the minute they get their first acceptance. So please make sure there's one school like that on your students list. And then these are a couple, yeah, there's resources at the end too. This is what happens. Yeah, those are resources, right? This is what happens. Kids feel like if they don't get into a school that they're not worthy, right? They feel like their worth is equated to whether they've been accepted or rejected. And that is, we know as adults, rational adults, that is not the case at all, but it's really hard to convince a 17 or 18-year-old of that. So it's really important as adults in their life to make sure that we don't attach, that we really very careful about the language that we use and not attach their self-worth to where they're accepted or rejected from college. So this is, if you've got too many reach schools, it won't be fun this time next year. And if you fall in love with just one school, or you think it's just there's only one perfect school and you don't get in, then that's a disappointment to not only yourself, but to everybody else. So this is where we can make our child's mental health a priority. Please don't equate those two things. They have nothing to do with each other. It's two separate things. And then I know that there's been a whole financial aid presentation that's available for families. So I won't go too far into this, but I will say, if you're choosing schools for your student and you want to look for merit aid, oh, I know, it's this right here, Nancy. This link right here will give it to you. And it's, can you click that? And tell me where the college data, that's it. Go to college data, and that will tell you if a school is, if they give merit aid, and that will also be where they talk about whether they're interested in demonstrated interest or not. That was the link I wanted to mention. Oop.
Hang on, I don't know how to get back where I was.
Just drag the, yeah.
While she's looking for the slide, Shelley, there was a question in the chat just asking, will you be discussing community college options and pathways at all?
Not in this presentation, but I can try to answer questions at the end for sure.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Oh, so yeah. So the I recommend that you, I think there's a link at the end, maybe, Nancy, but I recommend that you look at the Federal Student Aid webpage and check it out and see if you qualify or don't qualify for student aid through the federal government. But also look for schools that offer merit aid, and then make sure that your student is in the top 25% of their GPA and test score range, and they're more likely to receive merit aid. There's also a net price calculator built into every single college website, which you can use. You were on, go back to the other one. Yeah, the net price calculator. That will also help you determine what that college will cost for you. WUI is an option for California residents. Regional Association of College Counselors is another place for resources about information for out-of-state schools that are typically a better deal for, can be a better deal than an in-state private institution. And then, of course, Cal States and UCs right now are still some of the lower priced colleges for in-state students, definitely over private colleges. So that's something to consider when you're building your list, is to look for financially feasible colleges for your family.
Can you just give us the acronyms there, WUI and RACC?
Yes, sorry. Western Undergraduate Exchange. Mm-hmm. In fact, does that have a link, Nancy? I think that's a hot link.
Working on it.
Okay.
Can you see that?
I can't see the link, no.
Oh, okay.
That's
so
okay.
It's not.
Yeah.
I guess it
And then
doesn't
the
screen share. So
Regional Association of California Counselors is a group of counselors that live in California and represent schools that are across the country, but they're always recruiting California students to go to their schools, which means they're going to be more generous with out-of-state students. Like, you know, a student from California going to the University of Michigan, there's no tuition discount for a student there. But if you go to Michigan State, there might be a better tuition discount for you. So RAC is a place to research that. And then starting at a community college and then transferring to either state university or four-year institution can save money. Definitely will save you money. And I will say, since there was that question, Susan, maybe I can take a minute now to talk about that. If you're going to start at a community college and then transfer, the one piece of advice I have, and this is, it's pretty hard and fast, that is, you should know what you want to study and what campus you want to study for the last 2 years of your degree, because that will make transferring a heck of a lot easier. If you don't know, that's okay too, but make sure when you get to your community college that you're immediately in touch with the transfer counselor that you can work with very closely in your first 2 years so that you're getting the right units to transfer to the right major if you're going to go on to a UC or a Cal State. Okay. Next slide.
It doesn't want to go now. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna have to.
Go then.
Is this next?
Oh, is that our last one?
Is that the, yeah. Yeah, that's next.
That's our
Okay.
last one?
Mhm.
Okay, then I guess that's it. Yeah. Okay, and then, so this is just the last slide is just a little repeat of some of those resources. And then I think, is it time to answer some of those questions? Or do you want them to do the evaluation?
Well, we can answer questions.
Okay.
Yeah. But I will do this.
Hi, can I just ask?
Yes, hi,
Hi, thank you for this. This is very good.
thank you.
I liked your tip about going on a visit and not talking to the handpicked college admissions students, but the other ones.
Mhm.
Do you have any other tips like that that we can do during visits? And like maybe how to approach, I guess it's fine to just approach random students and say, hey, we're visiting. Do you mind just telling me
Totally.
about your experience?
And they're usually, students on campus are usually very eager to talk to potential students. And, usually where you eat, like go make sure they're over, buy a snack or go into the dining hall or the little cafe or whatever they have on campus and just, yeah. You have to be bold, but also I think it's a good thing to do because they'll be straight up with you about that. And we're in that particular day too. Remember, it's a particular day that you're asking, but students are pretty honest about that.
Thanks.
When you're visiting, make sure that the admissions office knows that you're there. That's not any secret tip, but that also shows demonstrated interest. Go ahead and take the tour, right? And be on campus and do what you're going to do formally, and then plan some extra time to kind of hang out and do that informal thing. If there's a department or a major or something that you're particularly interested in, try to reach out to that professor or somebody ahead of time. See if you can schedule something and talk to that professor about their research or anything like that. So there's different ways that you can do it. Depends on your student, depends on what the level of interest is in that particular campus. My suggestion was if you don't want to travel to a particular campus, there are many around us that are types of campus. Loyola Marymount is also one of those medium-sized private liberal arts. Occidental is a more selective, very urban private liberal arts. And then there's, of course, there's UCLA, there's, Cal State Northridge, there's, You can drive to San Diego if you wanted to see the San Diego area. There's lots of places you can go within a day that will give you a really good overview of, UC Irvine. It's not that far from most of us here.
And don't forget the Claremont colleges.
And the Claremont colleges, right? Gosh, right here. Yes, don't forget the Claremont colleges, because you can do 2 or 3 of those in a day, right? If you want, and just kind of tour around there. But just also Claremont colleges are 5 of the most selective colleges in the country. So don't place all your eggs in that one basket either. If you like one, great. That should be one of your 2 highly selectives, but don't apply to all 5 because they have different personalities. Not all 5 will be a good fit for one student. So, yes, but they are definitely a place you could go to kind of get an idea of a small private liberal arts. So. What's next?
Questions? Must be
Questions? Is there? Anybody? I think one question that we had prior to the presentation was is anyone interested in kids with IEPs and what to do for them? Was that something?
Yeah,
Anybody?
that person may not be here, but
Right,
that was
okay.
a question.
Okay, what I will say is
Yeah,
a
that
student
was
with an IEP, once you turn 18, the student that turns 18 with an IEP is responsible for their own IEP. So if you want to take that with you to college, the student needs to take initiative and make sure that that happens. Parent, once they're 18, that's it. So student, you can help research that, and you can help research the resources on campus for them, but they will need to be in charge. And lots of schools have lots of different levels of that. So please do your research for whatever campus you're looking at to make sure that they're going to meet your needs and the needs of your student for that.
Shelley, I
Maybe
just want to
that-
say that I love the suggestion you made about talking to students. I think that is so important. I always
Mhm.
tell students, ask students also what they don't like about the campus, what they
Yes.
wish they would have done differently. If they were a senior or a junior all over again, how would
Yes.
their college list,
Mhm.
be created differently? And
Mhm.
for some, they're like, I love it here and this is the great fit. And for others, it's like, whew, well, maybe I should have listened to my counselor or to so-and-so instead of doing what I wanted. But
Right.
yeah. And it also, when you visit, is also really can make a huge difference. Visiting a college
Yes.
campus on a Friday is so different than visiting on a Monday through a Thursday when the synergy is there and,
Good point.
student
Good
life
point.
is there.
Also, make sure you can go on spring break, but your chances to meet students might be a little diminished, right? Because kids might be gone for spring break. There might be kids there. Summertime, not as many kids are there. Some kids are there doing research. Some kids are there working on campus or whatever. So you might get that, but also, yes, that's a really good point, Wendy. Thank you for that.
We did have one other question in the chat just about whether most colleges accept an IEP.
That is a really broad question. I'm just going to go back to what I said, and that is please research the colleges that you're interested in. That should be one of the first questions you ask the admissions office or whoever you're working with, and the admissions counselor or whatever. That should be a question that's standard on your list of questions for each campus, because every school will have a different answer in a different way that they address student needs. And that's about as specific
Right.
as
And,
I want to get. Mhm.
It's hard to generalize also about just
Yes.
an IEP because your student's IEP is different from
Yes.
another student's IEP.
That's exactly right. That's a good point. Yeah. Should I talk about the most effective way to research a major? Anybody? We talked about major and finding a fit for your major, but how do you figure out what your major is? There are resources for that. And I don't know, Nancy, if you want me to be that specific right now, or you want to add those to some resources that you're going to send out later. How do you want me to?
Yeah, I think we do have a resource list that we will make available
Okay.
to people who registered for the program and also on our website with the slides. So yeah,
Okay.
sure. Why don't you share
Okay.
those with us and we'll share them with everyone.
Okay, so like basically the 6 steps would be a self-assessment, right? Learning about yourself, learning about what your interests and again, values are, what's important to you. And then to research the major itself, and I mentioned this a little bit on a college campus visit, look on a college website, check out what majors they offer, and then read about them. And the best way to do that is to look at the syllabus for the class. Check out what the syllabus said. What classes are you going to have to take if you want to be a math major? You might love math in high school, but then you look at it for college and you're like, I don't know what this is, and it doesn't really interest me anymore, so I don't think I want to be a math major. Also, what do I do with a math major? That's where you want to explore some career paths. And I will just mention one thing as a resource right now, and that's ONET Online. You can type that in the chat, ONET Online. That's an amazing resource for figuring out what not majors are, but what jobs are. And then they will tell you what you need for that job. And then talking to people, again, professors, your teachers. I had a student this year, she talked to 2 of her teachers, and after she'd already applied to all her schools with one major, had conversations with 2 of her high school teachers, and then realized, oh no, this is the major that I really want. So she's already changed her mind and she's not even in college yet. So talk to adults around you, talk to people who do a job that you think looks interesting and ask them what their path was. And then I'm going to say the last one is, oh yeah, test it out. Go to work, see if you like it. Ask them if you can shadow for a day, something. And then keep track. Like when you have an experience, write about it and think about it and then reflect on that and decide what you like and what you don't like, right, Wendy? And then that way you kind of get an idea of what it is that you're doing. So those are my quick 6 tips on that, but I can share that with you, Nancy, as well. Okay.
Great. I just put the link one more time in the chat to our participant survey. It's super short, very quick, but we really do look at all the responses, and it helps us develop our programs for next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, taking your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And any other questions that you have, please let us know. We'll do our best to answer them in the future. And again, as Susan said, if you signed up for the program and we have your email, we'll send you the resources. If not, please go to our website and sign up so that way we can send them to you.
Right. Thank you.
And have a good evening if there are no
Yes.
other questions. Thank you, Shelley. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for asking me. Thank you, Susan. And I think, well, no, there she is. Andrea, thank you for your work tonight.
All right.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Good night. Thanks.